I'm not going to talk about an anarchist economics in terms of a critique of the current society, in which I mostly agree with the classical Marxist analysis of libertarian or autonomous Marxism. I want to talk instead about the vision that we have of a post-capitalist society, post-revolutionary society, what it would look like. And there are basically two approaches to that, or have been in the past. One is to say that the historical process will produce a post-capitalist society, and that we'll then live through it, and we'll see what happens. And so there's no point talking about it now, because we talk about it now, we're being authoritarian, we're telling people in the future how they're going to live, and so forth. Now there's a point to that, but this is the perspective essentially of Marxism. And the problem with this, of course, is that, well, if a society that calls itself post-capitalist develops that's actually a monstrosity, a totalitarian, mass-murdering form of state capitalism, they can say, well, this is what capitalism, this is what socialism looks like, so how are we going to... I'm not making that up. This is what, in fact, most Marxists ended up, despite whatever their values, supporting mass murdering societies. On the other hand, there's a point of view going back to the so-called utopian socialists of saying, well, I start with my values, I have a critique of society as it is, and I'm going to work out what kind of values I want to see, and then I think about what kind of society would carry out, what kind of institutions would carry out those values. And in fact, Paracon, for example, is a modern-day example of doing that. And this has also clearly advantages, because it's starting from a set of values, but also has certain disadvantages in that it's sort of floating there. It's kind of abstract in relation to the real, actual world. What I'm going to be advocating is essentially a point of view that was raised by Enrico Malatesta, a view that's more regionalized, pluralistic, experimental, and flexible, based on the idea that, first of all, we don't have all the answers. We don't know what's going to be, and even taking that further, that any revolution that's going to happen is going to be a united front. It's not like everybody is going to be a libertarian communist. We're all going to agree on one or a Paraconist or a left green or whatever, or a revolutionary democratic socialist, or we can think of all. They're going to be all, even if we're leaving aside state socialists who will also be with us, there's going to be a range. And we're not going to impose one view on everybody. And imposed libertarian communism is, right, it would be absurd, of course. So there's going to be a varied point of view. And as long as somebody doesn't set up a new form of capitalism, or a new form of oppressive society, we could be open to different things happening, people trying out different things in different places. We should also add that along with not knowing everything, should add that while there's an emphasis among anarchists about the possibilities of human goodness, and it's true we don't know how far human beings can improve in a free society, it's also true there's the other side, that anarchists point out to the facts of human, I wouldn't say necessarily badness, but human limitations. People are not perfect. People will never be perfect, which also means to say that nobody should be trusted with power over anybody else. Not you, not me. And and therefore we need a society that's as open as possible, that's as flexible as possible, that's experimental as possible, that is decentralized and pluralistic, that has as possible, that has, wherever there has to be representation, that should be as limited as possible, rotation in office, and so forth and so forth and so on. So, so what are we thinking of? What I'm thinking of is that North America is a very big place, and the world is even bigger. And I don't think there's one system that's going to fit everybody. I imagine a world North America broken up into various regions, and people will try out different things in different places. One area might, say, try to be somewhat more centralized in its planning and so forth than another. Another area might try some kind of a decentralized market socialism, which I'm not for, but I can imagine them saying, all right, with co-ops and workers' enterprises and so forth, as long as they don't have hired labor and so on. Somebody else might try decentralized planning from the bottom up, like in the Paracon model. And that's okay. And then we'll see how it works out. And one area might try remuneration by paying people according to how much labor, how hard they work, how long they work, and stuff like that. Another place might try to go immediate to full communism, where the motives for work are completely social. And that's all right. And a different area might try to deal with the question of who's going to do coordination. One place might have coordination done through the workers' councils, or unions or something, the way more or less like the syndicalists. And somebody else might try to do it on a Bookchin's model of local communes coordinating, or on a Paracon model where there are both consumer collectives, committees, and the workers' committees, and they coordinate to each other, and they coordinate their plans and so forth. And that's all right. And that would be an experimental kind of society that would try different things, and some things will work better than others, so we'll all try to switch to that, or some things work just as well. Because the world is complex, because different regions will have different amount of natural resources, of culture, of tradition, of different industries will require. The method we use to organize the steel industry isn't going to be the same method we use, I hope, to organize, say, education for small children. Some of the chancellor in the mayor of my city in New York doesn't understand the difference, but we do. And there'll be the question of stages. As I say, some people might try to go immediately into a full communist society, which was more or less advocated by Kropotkin. Not entirely, actually. If you actually read what Kropotkin said, he proposed how in a city in the first period, people in a city might have be forced to work for, say, 5 hours or a certain amount of hours a day, and then those people will all get, all able-bodied adults, that is, would get remunerated basic standard of living, and then if they wanted luxuries, they would have to work extra in other activities. So it wasn't entirely the, anarchist, communist utopia immediately that had been, people usually think of in terms of Kropotkin. As is widely known, Marx proposed at least two stages, a lower stage of communism and a higher stage, which Lenin, for some reason known only to him, labeled the first as socialism and the second as communism. And everybody on the left uses these distinctions for reasons I don't know. And in fact, as was already pointed out, Bakunin actually advocated something similar, although he didn't use the term communism. And he also said that the first stage, people should try different kind of things, that different areas would work out different forms of remuneration, and so forth. Nobody actually discussed how they would go from one period, one system to another. I can imagine a society where you have to work and for a certain amount of hours and so forth to get a certain return. And then meanwhile, areas where the society is particularly productive, you might increasingly expand a basic communist area that is just as, say, water or highways are, well, I won't say free, but are collectively provided for by society. Individuals don't pay for them, even in our society, or fire protection, or general education for most people. As society gets wealthy, it could expand that area to more and more into the free communist sector. And less do you have to be, have it chalked up how many hours you work and so on. That's just a speculation I have. I don't know. I imagine people would try different things.